Space is increasingly becoming a geopolitical theme. I think many people are drawn to space out of curiosity.
Do you think investors are still thinking about the space economy in the wrong way?
Space potentially can become a place where we will increasingly operate, service, construct, maybe even compute. We believe that the most compelling approach to capturing opportunities in the space economy is about combining actually both established leaders and also emerging innovators. I think SpaceX definitely will dominate a lot of investor conversations. Not every company with a space-related press release should be considered as a compelling space investment.
What do you think the sector is going to look like in the future, in 10 years from now?
It's a very exciting development.
Welcome back to the Investing Markets and Money podcast. And this week we're talking about the space sector. We're recording this just after the very successful SpaceX IPO in the US, so it's an extremely topical subject. And on the podcast today we have Elvira Kuramshina from WisdomTree. She's an associate director in their Quantitative Finance team, and we'll be answering a few questions on the rapidly expanding space sector. Welcome to the program, Elvira.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Your second time on the podcast.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a incredibly exciting topic at the moment. SpaceX generated a huge amount of interest amongst investors. Do you think that IPO has suddenly transformed the space sector from what we could have called a niche investment theme into something more mainstream?
I think it was a very important IPO for the space as the industry, and what it did, I think it definitely changed the perception about space as an investment opportunity. But I think many investors are still not as aware about space turning into a very important strategic frontier, also technological ecosystem, and a new economic platform. So SpaceX really was the turning point for the industry, but the opportunities, of course, stretched beyond just this one company. I think SpaceX is also exciting if we're looking at different stats around the company, right, that they dominate commercial launches. They also have Starlink, which is the widest network of satellites, and various other initiatives, development of Starship, lunar and Mars ambitions. All of that captures public imagination and attention. But I think it's also important that it brings this huge spotlight into the space as an investment theme, and also the opportunity for the space economy to grow and develop further.
Do you think investors are still thinking about the space economy in the wrong way? They're still too focused on, for example, rockets and satellites, which is the main area that SpaceX itself has expertise in. But isn't it really a bigger investment case than that?
Oh, absolutely. I think many people and also investors are drawn to space out of curiosity. After all, it's a very exciting theme also from the technological perspective. But I think the most interesting question comes: what comes afterwards and what can be unlocked when access to orbit becomes cheaper. So launches and enabling infrastructure are quite important because they serve as the foundational layer that can unlock so many different opportunities and use cases in space. But if we're thinking about what space is already enabling today, so let's take satellites and infrastructure, there are actually a range of use cases that go barely noticed by people in our daily lives, from navigation to connectivity, enabling like use cases in logistics, also in digital payments, in emergency response. So it's quite a wide array of different use cases. And obviously, if we're looking into the future, there are even more ambitious and quite inspiring, actually, things that can be unlocked when we have much more economically viable access to the orbit.
Yes, speaking about economic viability, do you think part of this I mean, you could call it a space boom, is coming from the fact that the launch costs, the cost of getting payloads into orbit, are coming down, and commercial companies can now do this rather than just leaving this to governments?
That's a great question, and that's really at the core what is enabling bigger opportunities within the space economy. So if we're looking historically, space was the domain of governments just because access to orbit was so expensive and launches were also infrequent. And the progress with reusable rockets, by the way, also introduced by SpaceX, was key to introducing cheaper access to orbit. And this launch cost deflation is really key for enabling a range of applications in space. And that's why for investors, I guess the question becomes, once access to space becomes even cheaper, what kind of new demand and new markets can be unlocked by that?
I mean, we've mentioned already this used to be an area for governments. Do you think this is refocusing governments on space technology, and that this is going to become more of a geopolitical theme as well? It's not just going to be SpaceX dominating things, but governments will become much more focused on things again.
Absolutely. Space is increasingly becoming a geopolitical theme, and we are seeing definitely renewed focus on space and a range of ambitions which are announced by different countries. So let's take US and Artemis program. Mm-hmm. I think the successful completion of Artemis 2 earlier this year in April was really key for paving the way for returning humans to the moon in the future, and also potentially building future moon base as well. At the same time, such defense initiative as Golden Dome, also announced, puts space as a very important sphere for national security, also for technological sovereignty, and also for economic competitiveness. And in Europe, for example, there is also a range of initiatives with the focus on resilience and sovereignty as well, such as IRIS, ESA Strategy 2040, Galileo, and China is a very important player when it comes to the space economy as well. So they've built their own space station. They also have lunar ambitions, and they have quite ambitious, large-scale constellation plans as well.
SpaceX, obviously, as we're recording this, getting a lot of publicity, doing well post-IPO. But within the wider sector, where do you see some of the other winners emerging beyond SpaceX itself?
That's a great question. So there is so much attention and focus right now on SpaceX, and it's understandably so. And in the foreseeable future, it probably will be really the case that SpaceX will dominate most of the attention on space. But the next generation of winners definitely will also emerge in launches and infrastructure, because we definitely need more launch capacity, and we need to make access to space even more economically viable to have many more use cases enabled in the future. And essentially, that also means that the next generation of winners will emerge not from just one single category, but they will come from the layers within the space economy. So if we take, for example, satellites and enabling infrastructure there, the companies that will be able to provide satellite-based services, also geospatial intelligence, and that will help a range of industries and businesses to integrate this type of insights and intelligence into their everyday decisions. They definitely will be positioned to win in the long term. And when it comes to emerging applications, there are some quite exciting use cases also in the private, mostly in the private sector, I would say, that are being explored and researched right now. And obviously, those companies, they will represent the frontier growth in the future, and certain winners definitely will come from those applications. To name the few, so space-based solar power, for example, or in-space manufacturing, on-orbit servicing, space mining, and of course space-based data center, which caught a lot of headlines this year due to SpaceX as well, I think are all interesting use cases that we potentially will see at some point in the future.
It's all very exciting stuff. And I mean, when you guys at WisdomTree come down to obviously having to decide what actually qualifies as a space tech company, it must be quite difficult because it's a fast-growing sector. And certainly from my own analysis, there seem to be some companies that are, I mean, there's obviously some companies that are very specialist space tech companies, but a lot of others have a foot in the water as well. So how do you go about defining that?
So I think we have to start by pointing out that not every company with a space-related press release should be considered as a compelling space investment, of course. And what we're doing at WisdomTree, we are actually starting with the top-down view by looking at space verticals. And those space verticals are essentially associated with different layers of space opportunities. And the verticals that we have are launches and infrastructure, commercial space, defense space, and emerging technologies. So if you think about launches and infrastructure, I've already highlighted that they're really the foundation of future growth in space, because it's important to make access to orbit commercially, even further commercially viable. And if we're thinking about different space-based services, applications from commercial perspective, which are embedded into the real economy today and which will increasingly form the world economy in the future, they form commercial space. And this is the vertical that we expect to really expand and grow even further in the future. Defense space is about acknowledging, again, that space is becoming very important for national security, for economic and technological competitiveness of countries. And such, for example, services as, or such solutions as space-based missile defense architecture or secure communications, certain areas that governments are definitely prioritizing and exploring already now how to build their space-based capabilities. And if we are closing with emerging technologies, so this vertical is definitely important for representing the potential next frontier of future growth when it comes to the space economy. So having this top-down view allows us to capture opportunities that arise in space from today to tomorrow. And then we take it a step further and we are looking at companies, right? Introducing this bottom-up assessment as well. And we are doing it through the lens of relevance. Because as you mentioned, that there are also companies that are pure players, but there are also companies which might be diversified, but they're definitely contributing meaningfully to the space economy and to its further advancements. So for us, relevance is key, and this is how we rank the companies in the space economy, and they have to contribute meaningfully, and they also need to have significant space activities as well.
Do you think that the SpaceX IPO itself is going to lift the whole sector? I mean, the level of enthusiasm it's created already.
Absolutely. So as I've mentioned before, I think SpaceX definitely will dominate a lot of investor conversations, and obviously it will probably the company that many people would associate with space, and rightfully so. Again, they have so many different things that they are looking to explore in space, right? So they are dominating commercial launches. They have Starlink, development of Starship, and all of the lunar and Mars ambitions. I think there is a range of different use cases that they're looking at. We've just also discussed space-based data centers too. And from that perspective, SpaceX definitely is the category-defining company. and really central to the space economy. And it's the unquestionable leader. But at the same time, it also helps, like it serves as a catalyst in a way for many companies, and it enables many other companies to think how they actually can explore space and how can they harness unique space conditions and what kind of new markets can be also forged by opportunities in space.
And as we look ahead, do you think that the sector will be defined more by the big established players or smaller, more exciting opportunities coming through as well? Although I appreciate this whole sector's fairly new.
I think it's not either or. So at WisdomTree, we believe that the most compelling approach to capturing opportunities in the space economy is about combining actually both established leaders and also emerging innovators as well. So let's think first about established leaders in the space economy. Obviously, they bring scale. They have immense capacity in terms of R&D, CAPEX. They also bring established relationship with governments and participation maybe in a range of different programs. But at the same time, if we're thinking about smaller emerging companies, they might have sometimes much higher innovation factor, because essentially they are entering into the space economy with something new. That's the value proposition. So if you are only concentrated on large players, you might be missing that innovation factor that smaller companies might bring. And obviously, this is also something that can be associated with more diverse growth opportunities in the future. But if you're only focused on emerging innovators, then you are definitely increasing concentration in your portfolio, execution risk, technology risks, and volatility. So this is something that it's also not desirable in the portfolio context. And combining both allows you to harness diversified opportunities offered by the space economy. And that's exactly why we are focusing on relevancy of companies and use it as the lens to select companies into our strategy.
No, that makes a lot of sense to me. Finally, I wanted to just ask you, what do you think the sector is going to look like in the future, in 10 years from now? I know it's a tough question to ask, but forecasting like this, but from your perspective, where do you see it going?
So I do believe that in 10 years' time, space definitely will feel less distant and much, much more integrated into the real economy. It's already being integrated into the real economy today. It's just that many people, again, are not exactly aware about that. But I think more appreciation of this will come in the future as the focus really will shift also to some of the pioneering companies there. And I think we will see a much denser network of satellites, maybe also new space-based defense architectures being built, more resilient connectivity, more AI-enabled space intelligence that companies will use in their business decisions, maybe even on a daily basis. But what is much more exciting, I think that space potentially can become a place where we will increasingly operate, service, construct, maybe even compute, and also extract resources and manufacture. And I think in space, manufacturing is quite an exciting area. And this is where unique conditions in space, such as microgravity or vacuum, can be explored. And certain things can be produced that cannot be done in the conditions of Earth. And they cannot be replicated on Earth. And some of the examples here include, for example, advanced materials, semiconductors, biomedical research is quite exciting, and even production of new medicine. So what is really important is that space in this 10-year time frame will shift, hopefully, from being associated, with launches and rockets and satellites, and make this transition to a fully functioning economic system. And that's exactly the shift that and the opportunity that many investors should understand and assess as they're looking at space as an investment theme.
No, I think that's really exciting. I think it's definitely going to be a sector that's going to deliver for investors in the future, and very, very exciting space to be keeping tabs on. Thank you very much for coming on the podcast today to give us a little bit more information on that, Elvira.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Like and subscribe to our channel for more great investing ideas. You can find us on thearmchairtrader.com, as well as on X, Instagram, and TikTok. You can subscribe to our free newsletter for news, insight, and tips to help you navigate the financial markets. The content of this podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice. The views and opinions expressed by guests or hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Armchair Trader. Investments can go up and down in value, and you may not get back the amount you originally invested. Past performance is not a reliable indicator of future results. We do not provide any personal investment, tax, or legal advice. Always do your own research or seek independent professional advice before making any financial decisions. The Armchair Trader is a media company and is not authorized or regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority.